Well, you have finally got here. You are listening to the Erskine Music Podcast. Here, by popular demand, we discuss life, culture, Christ, and of course, music. These half-hour broadcasts are perfect for a commute, coffee time, chat, or any other gap in your schedule where you want to put great content. So without further ado, let's join the conversation today, already in progress.
Let's get to it today. A viral TikTok video. It gets massive attention as this young lady calls out parents of 5-year-olds who she's teaching who are completely unruly and undisciplined. Parents, and here's all the different things that we've heard on these types of videos. I know I'm about 4 days late from this, but that's okay. When I get to it, people. Here's what I have heard. Parents, you need to raise your kids. Them bad kids. And you need to raise them. I've heard that. Artists that are out there. Red. Poisoning our kids' minds, and the artists taking responsibility for these things, and we need artists to be held accountable. I've heard that. I've been there before as a music artist. You're impacting kids with this unholy music that's out there. Culture, shocking and graphic, and it's collapsing. Give me some Aretha Franklin up in this thing. Well, we can't do that because that'd be copyright infringement. Big Head was warning me. You can't just start playing Aretha Franklin? Okay, got it. Duly noted. RESPECT. We don't have respect for authority anymore. So these kids are running unruly. These parents are undisciplined. These artists need to be held accountable. And I've heard all of those things on various media platforms. Wonderful media platforms that are out there that are highlighting and covering this, I don't want to call it story, but this cultural trend that is out there. What is going on? The collapse of our culture. I've been on that before. And so I'm not going to do what everybody else does. In fact, I think that there's a major part of this story that got missed, and a major capitalization for Christians as we think through stories like this. And there are tons of stories that are out there. I don't even have the time or the space on this show to cover all the stories that are like this. I think there's a tremendous opportunity that Christians are missing. I think almost everyone missed this. And so let's get to it today. It's the Erskine Music Show. I'm going to give you my unique, well, I hesitate to say that because I'm going to be reading Bible verses, and I didn't come up with any of those Bible verses. But for the sake of this cultural conversation, the Erskine Music Show is going to give you a unique take on this TikToker who melts down when she's thinking about the 5-year-olds who are twerking in her class, undisciplined and wanting Pound Town played in their ballet class. Let's get to it today. It's the Erskine Music Show. This is the top story for today. TikToker melts down as she's crying about these 5-year-olds living such an overexposed life. What are we going to say about this? What do we talk about with regards to this? All the regular talking points and more at the Erskine Music Show. It's our top story today. Viral video that many of you guys have seen. I'm going to let you watch it again today. Some parts of it, not all of it.
If you're a parent and your child is in pre-K to elementary school to high school, I'm calling you out. The children today, I have never experienced, and I'm 22. Having to teach and work with you guys as children has been the most traumatic experience of my life.
She is 22, and there is something that I want you guys to see now that we have established that baseline. Think back, those of you who are beyond the age of 22. Think back if you can. Rewind the tape if you can. Back to a time when you were respectably and reasonably around this same age. What kind of things were you thinking? How were you experiencing the world? Maybe 22 is the year that you graduated or got out of college or some type of secondary education, or were in the process of doing that, beginning to experience the world without all of the safeguards of your parents and the safeguards of institutions. You're beginning to experience the full brunt of what was going on in the world. No, this is her in this video.
I teach 5-year-olds ballet. 5-year-old girls ballet. I have a class of 10 students. They don't respect any authority. You ask them, can you stand in your designated spot? They're telling you no and shut up. They're throwing things at each other. They're throwing things at other people, other classmates. You say, can everybody sit in their spot? I don't want to. I'm not doing that. You don't get to tell me what to do. You're not my mom. You confront the parent. The parent tries to argue with you and fuss at you because you tried to reprimand and redirect their kid. I told a young little girl, please sit in your spot. You're not my mom. You don't tell me what to do. Okay. When her mom came to pick her up, I said, hey, your daughter's having a hard time following instructions. And 7 times today, I've had to redirect her to just sit in her spot. Well, clearly she didn't want to sit. And mind you, this is a mom. Clearly she didn't want to sit right there. So, I mean, if she's telling you she don't want to do something, why keep asking her to do it? You know?
All right, let me stop there for just a second. Here's the deal. And here's the point that I wanted to make that I don't think anybody has really given proper attention to. And it is this. She's 22 years old. And I'm not saying that this is her fault. She's obviously chosen to be in a place where she can educate these kids. And for those, perhaps like myself, perhaps like teachers that are out there that may watch this and say, we got into the teaching profession believing that we could help those around us. We got into the teaching profession or social work profession because we wanted to help people who had issues in life. And then you begin to recognize what those issues were, and that sometimes people don't want to be helped. Parents don't want your help. They don't appreciate what it is that you're doing. They don't care about what you're doing. They don't care about your redirection, all the techniques that you've used, all the number of times, your patience, your showing up, your consistency, your faithfulness, all of those different things. They don't care. They don't care about those things. And to me, as much as we can say, well, parents, the position that parents are in, the lack of discipleship, the lack of discipline that parents are teaching their kids, that is a thread that we can run on. And there's been many people who have talked about that aspect of it. But what we're not talking about here, and what I feel like is vitally important that we share with everyone, and I don't think I have a large demographic of people who are in college who are watching this, because in college, you got so many things going on. Watching this show is probably not one of the top priorities. But if you are 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and you're watching this and exposed to this viral video, here's what I want to tell you, young man, young lady. Fight. That's not what I want to tell you. But what I want to tell you is, welcome to the real world. That's what it's like out in these streets. That's what it's like when your parents are no longer taking care of the issues for you and the interpersonal conflict and challenges that are there. And you talk to my daughter like that. She's teaching a ballet class and I'm going to comment on it. No, her parents are not the ones who are confronting these parents. Her parents perhaps have raised her, and it seems like her parents have done a good job of raising her. She has some degree of presentation to herself. She has some degree of common sense to herself. So kudos to her parents. But notice her parents aren't stepping into the situation and saying, you know what, don't talk to my daughter like that. No, her parents aren't coming into her ballet class and saying, hey, my daughter told you to sit down. Y'all better sit down, and taking care of the situation. So 17-year-old, 18-year-old, 17 through 21-year-old, when your parents are not there to save you anymore, when, I don't know what the ballet instructors and what the class setup happen to be like, but when other adults aren't coming in to save you, when the parents aren't coming in to save you, I just need you to know this morning that this is what the real world is all about. This is what the real world looks like when you get out there in those streets. I know There's social workers who got into social work because there's so many kids and families that are hurting out there. You just want to help them all. You just want to love them. You done got into your work and you're burned out because time after time after time after time, you're overworked and underappreciated. Who cares about what you're doing, the long hours that you're putting in? Time and time and time and time again, burning through social workers, burning through teachers, burning through ballet teachers in this world. I just wanted to say this is what the real world is like. And this is not, listen, Big Head is trying to remind me, this is not, Erskine's heart has become calloused and desensitized to the things that are going on in this world. But I just want to give you some biblical rationale. Here's what I put in my notes for today. Here's the recognition of the real world that we live in and how I think we missed the gospel moment here. We missed the gospel moment because once we recognize what the real world is like, we need a real remedy. Come on, let's go. Okay, so stop. You're going to kill the audience doing that. We somehow think that innocence and children go together. But actually, biblically, if we begin to look at that, the book of Psalms gives us a verse like this. Surely I was sinful at birth. This is Psalm 51:5, and then I'll read verse 6. Surely I was sinful at birth, sinful from the time my mother conceived me. So where does the location of sin start? Does it start when we come to the class and we're a 5-year-old and the teacher says, you need to sit down, or let's have you come over here, or can you stop doing that? And then all of a sudden the child sins? No, the sinful inclination is already in the child. And I'm going to say more about that a little bit later. We're going to get back to that. Listen to verse 6. Yet you desired faithfulness even in the womb. You taught me wisdom in that secret place. God's standard is righteousness, but righteousness does not follow us around. Holiness does not follow us around in the sense that it is native to our personhood. We are born in sin. We are shaped in iniquity. We come into this world already bent a certain way. Listen to what Romans chapter, that's the Old Testament, but let's go to the New Testament. Romans chapter 3, verses 10 through 17. Listen to what it says. As it is written, this is in the Old Testament, bringing it up to New Testament and giving us a greater layout of what the scope of our sinful condition is. There is no one righteous, not even one. There's no one who understands. There is no one who seeks God. All have turned away and they have together become worthless. There is no one who does good, not even one. So how many people are we talking about here who have actually done what is right, who are in the position and have the capacity to do what is right? How many people are we talking about? Big Head said, remind them, no, not one. All of them have sinned. In verse 13 of the text there in Romans chapter 3, verse 17, it says, their throats are open graves. Their tongues practice deceit. The poison of vipers is on their lips. Verse 14, their mouths are full of cursing and bitterness. And story after story after story that we read in our cultural commentary is cursing and bitterness. Verse 15 said their feet are swift to shed blood. Story after story after story. Ruin and misery, it says in verse 16 of our text, mark their ways. And then in verse 17, it says, and the way of peace, they do not know. All have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Eventually, Paul gets there in Romans chapter 3. Romans chapter 6, he gets to the wages of sin is death. So there's a sense, and help me out on this for just a second, but there's a sense in which, puberty, I guess, was delayed. But there's a sense in which, in a situation like this, are we shocked? Are we surprised? Is this like the analogy that I was giving earlier? Two trains that are about to collide. Here's this 22-year-old whom is optimistic. She's going into this ballet class. She's believing that all is well with these children, that there's some way that she can shape their hearts, and she's playing wholesome music for them, and she's showing them wholesome ways to use their body and wholesome ways to dance. unless you're like the footloose crowd and you're fundamentalist. And you're like, no, all dancing is sinful. But let's just go with it for just a second. She's showing them beauty, and she's showing them just different ways of approaching life that's different from what it is that they are walking in. Like C.S. Lewis talks about, they're like kids in the slums playing with mud pies because they cannot imagine what is the proposition of a holiday at the sea is like. And I didn't quote that verbatim, but essentially C.S. Lewis is like, hey, we have just satisfied ourselves on things that are so less than the goodness and the godliness that is available to us in Christ Jesus. But they've gotten used to a diet of just trash.
Well, that certainly gives a sense of why people enjoy this show. Very engaging, very heartfelt. We will return to the conversation in a few moments, but first, let's thank our sponsors and you for all your awesome support. Moody Radio's Dawn and Steve Morning Show, Life Action Ministries, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and Holt International. Thanks so much to our partners who make such a difference.
Thanks, Jason. This is Dawn.
And this is Steve of Dawn and Steve in the Morning on Moody Radio. You can find us online at donandsteve.org, or you can listen through the Moody Radio app.
And as friends of the Erskine Music Show, we always enjoy the variety of topics our friend has on his show.
So, on behalf of our show, thanks, Erskine, for bringing great Christ-centered topics to the people.
All right, let's get back to the show. This is where it gets good.
I don't know how she would make disciples if she left. Now, here's where it gets good. Here's where the show gets really good, because I got it in my notes. I can almost hear the objections of people who are coming to me. What? Y'all want me to open the door? No, I'm not opening the door for you guys, because I already know what the objections are. People who are giving the objection today, who are saying, wait a minute. She shouldn't be forced to stay in a situation that is not to her liking. She shouldn't be forced to have to work in an environment that is so conducive to poor mental health. She shouldn't be forced. I'm not forcing anybody to do anything. I'm saying you got a choice to make. And here's what the choice of leaving, here's the nuance. Yeah, I think I'm going to put this in a book. I need to put this in a book. But if you put it in a book before me, then it's fine. But there's three things that you got to think about if you're going to leave a situation like this. If you're going to flee, fight or flight response. You guys know that I have a fight or fight response.
Fight.
It's just what degree am I going to fight? But you've got to think about this with regards to the 3 C's. One of those is you've got to figure out what your capacity is. She may be a student. She may be busy. She may be at the last semester of her life, and she may be going on to a European cruise and a European vacation and to study abroad and working on her doctoral work, or going and living in a commune somewhere in India. I don't know what it is she's going to be doing in her life, but she may not have the capacity to fight this battle.
Fight.
And so she may be ready to tap out in this situation and just say, you know what? I'm bringing this to the attention of the world, as if the world doesn't already know. She's just the last one to figure it out. I'm bringing this to the attention of the world, and I'm not going to be able to, I don't have the resources. I don't have the people power. I don't have the creative solutions to be able to fight this battle. And so I'm going to tap out. That is a choice that one must make when they're retreating or leaving from anything. It doesn't matter whether you're working for a corporation, doesn't matter whether you're a pastor of a church, doesn't matter if you're a worship leader. Do I have the capacity to continue to go through whatever it is that I'm going through with regards to my present situation? Do you have the capacity? That's the first C. And I'm going to be an author someday. I've already written it in my notes, so I guess I am an author. I've already written songs, and so I guess I'm published. Do you have the courage to deal with this situation?
Fight.
Not everybody out there will give you the Kobe Bryant stare down when Matt Barnes tries to put the ball in his face, tries to make him flinch. Not everybody is a stare down kind of person. I happen to be a stare down kind of person. I try not to do that and try to let my eyes just kind of softly move across the room. But bro, I do not care. I will stare you down because I'm ready.
Fight.
If the parents are doing this, What do we need? We need some parenting classes. Bring in some resources for you. What kind of? I'm going to at least offer you another opportunity to do better. This is not good. And I'm going to help you to remind you this is not good. And I was reading in the comment section where if this is her class, and I'm assuming since ballet is not a class that's offered for free, somebody had to pay something for these kids to get in this class. Here's your confrontation, perhaps. The next time your daughter talks back to me, she will not be welcomed at this class. Leave your deposit and goodbye. That is a real consequence of the situation. But do you have the courage to do that? Because there's some people who wouldn't do that. I'll do that. The first time I came to you like a sheep, I told you what was going on in class. I told you about how I tried to work with you so that we could come up with a reasonable solution for your child. However, both you and your child have shown a blatant disregard for the rules and basic decency of respect. Thank you very much, but you are gone from this class. Do not call my phone. Do not send me emails, and I do not need your deposit. Thank you very much. Another kid who is waiting, who wants to be in this class, is now entered into this class. I'm sorry, but you blew it. You lost the opportunity because you were a knucklehead. You lost the opportunity because you were too ignorant to figure out something good was happening that called you to respond to, and you couldn't do it. But not everybody has that kind of courage. Not everybody is bringing that kind of energy to the situation. I'm told at times that I'm a little bit intense. That's just by dint of personality. And so I'm looking to have that kind of courageous conversation. So the first thing is, do you have the capacity? Second thing is, do you have the courage? And then the third thing, again, I talked about this, but what are the circumstances of your life? I'm looking at the time. It's like, whoa, it's getting away. What are the circumstances of your life? You may be in a situation where there's massive transition that's taking place. You may not have the emotional capacity to be able to deal with all the different things that are there. Obviously, is causing her to break down mentally within her car, where it looks like she was shooting this video from. And so, what are the circumstances of your life? There are some things that she may just need to, because there's other things going on in life, just wash her hands and say, look, I can't, this can't work. That may just be the circumstances that present themselves as a result of what's going on. This today, you're going to figure out why I'm not using transgender pronouns for anybody out there. And I apologize for nothing. Big Head is already telling me you should start this show over because you've already started out with a bad tone. Big Head, I apologize for nothing. I don't care about the tone police that are out there. I'm going to give you guys a rationale for why it is that I'm not going to be using gender pronouns if it's a he, a she, a we, a it, a they, and they want to call themselves among whatever they want to call themselves. If I see a dude, I'm calling him a dude. If I see a girl, and well, this could get really tricky these days, but I'm going to call it like I see it. And I have to live in the truth, and we're going to talk about that today. So here's what my official introduction says for today for all the tone police who haven't already turned this off. Hello, and welcome back to here's the tone police. Hello, and welcome back to the Erskine Music, so that we can be perceived as loving. Never confront a sinner about their sin, is what the world believes. But I believe that there's a way that we can do this. Many Christians believe that it's not our job to convict the world of sin. We're going to be talking directly about that. And if you're one of those people that's like, no, don't do it, they're going to get upset. I'm going to gag on that kind of sentiment. And I'm going to tell you why that kind of sentiment is wrongheaded. Although there will be some Christians who disagree with me, and you'll still go to heaven, maybe. I'll play that sentiment in this show, and then I'll also make sure that I do the rejoinder, which is my actual view. So I'm going to give time and equal space for people who disagree with me.
Well, you probably already know that when you hear that sound, there's music on the way. After all, this is kind of a music show. Sit back and enjoy. All the music can be easily found on your favorite digital distribution channels. Turn up the volume and here we go.
Life is like a merry-go-round. One day you're up, the next one back down. Some days I don't have a clue of what my life would be like without you. And even when I don't understand, I will trust your unfailing hand. After all that is said and done, you're the one. Cause every day has its own set of sorrows. Day to day I'm growing up, I'm getting closer. Jesus saved me and he made me much bolder. Even when I don't understand, I will trust his unchanging hand. After all that is said and done, you're the one. Yeah, yeah. Round and round and round, that's how it goes. And where it stops, the Lord knows. Round and round that's how it goes. I praise the Lord no matter what comes. My head starts spinning, my life is going round. I celebrate, he's the treasure that I found. When my head starts spinning, my life is going round. I celebrate, he's the treasure that I found. Round and round and round. Round and round and round. Round and round and round. Round and round and round, that's how it goes. And where it stops, the Lord knows. Round and round and round, that's how it goes. I praise the Lord no matter what comes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Round and round and round and round. I praise the Lord.
These guys are great. I think their video is great. They're talking about the same issue, but they're talking about it in a little different way. And I wish that I could learn how to be like these guys. But at the end of the day, guys, I am who I am by the grace of God. I'm a little bit nutty, but I'm also, I think, pretty clear thinking with regards to an issue like this. All right. So should a Christian use quote unquote preferred pronouns or not? What are your thoughts on this? What's your take on it? Have a take, stick by it. Don't be coming in the comment section and crying to me and being like, hey, I was going to argue with you, but now I'm not. If you feel like you need to argue with me, then you argue with me. Just get it out. This is therapy for you. Just get it all out. And then you can come back and agree with me. Here we go. Same question, but this guy does not have to look like he appealed to an auditorium full of people who have terrorist high school cheerleader moms that are out there. They're going to write letters every single day about every single thing that they don't like about school.
It's the start of this video.
Was that harsh? I don't think so.
There's like probably 100
new ones. Yeah, exactly. So how do we approach that? Well, I want to just give some really simple principles for approaching this topic. 3 simple principles that I think will guide us in this topic.
Okay.
The first principle is to love your neighbor.
That is the first principle for everybody. Can I just go ahead and say, I don't know how that dinged like there was, right on time, but can I affirm, since we're affirming things on the show today, I want to affirm that the first principle is loving your neighbor.
Very simple principle, but be careful when you're dealing with someone who is demanding this, don't just treat the person as if they are a political debate.
Now, I think that one of the things he said there is important. And I do want to bring this up on this show. The race stuff was a joke, but kind of not. There's some cultural things that may factor in, but they're like 100 on the list of like 99 other things would come before that. I think that the setting in which you have these conversations with people, especially when it's contentious conversation, matters. I think that if you're having a conversation with a group of people who all identify as trans and are upholding this position, that's why I didn't show the Ben Shapiro video, because he's savage. Like, when you go into a situation like that, you already know they're out for blood. And by the time Ben Shapiro, who was just asking questions about biology, got done with the gentleman that was sitting next to him, dressed up like a woman, he wanted to go out and fight. And I'm not trying to spark that kind of conversation, but I do think that in a one-on-one situation, you can be a lot more bold. In this particular setting, where I have my own show and I say whatever the heck that I want to say, I can be a lot more bold. But there would be times in which I would not change the answer, but the tone of the conversation. I'm not going to be sitting down at a dinner table yelling at the top of my lungs and hitting sound effects. Like, that context is a lot different than when you're sitting down with one-on-one with somebody. And so let's be careful when we talk about loving our neighbor, that we don't apply the situation and the setting in such a way that, the same way that you would sit down and have a very calm and, quiet, collected conversation with your neighbor sitting across from you. We don't apply that situational or contextual ethic to every single person that's across the board. This is my show. I can do what I want to do on my show. I can say what I want to show. Part of this is I want you to keep watching this show and be, to some degree, entertained by what it is that you're hearing, because after all, this is a music show. I want everybody to buy my music, stream my music, invite me to come and do concerts, and also speak at your chapel and assemblies. And so this is the way of going about doing that, by having some cultural conversations. You're going to know what it is that you're going to get when I show up, because you're going to have watched the show and you're going to go, dang, we need to have this guy come and do something at our school. We need to have him come and do a concert. We need to have him come and speak at chapel. We need to have him come and be, the keynote speaker or the band that represents our institution that's out there. Because you watch these shows and you think, man, finally somebody is actually making sense and not trying to take every conceivable position that's out there so he can gain fame and popularity. If I was wanting to gain fame and popularity, I certainly wouldn't do this show, and I certainly wouldn't do a topic like this if I was trying to gain fame and popularity. And so there's got to be another reason why we do things like this. And maybe it's just truth.
Right? Like, this is a real person who, for some reason,
where are the Dolphins at?
Thinks that they'll be happier if everyone else confirms something about them that's not true. It's a very sad thing. It's a very tragic thing. And there are people who
I kind of dealing with someone who's been obviously lied to.
Yeah. Because there are people that like power trip for sure, and they want to do this because they have an agenda. But there are a lot of people that just have been lied to their whole life.
So yes, I do think that caveat was important. Some of the guys that are in conservative think tanks, I wonder about them sometimes. I worry, kind of like Nacho Libre, that they may not be saved. I'm gonna have to take my thing and just smash their head in there. And some of the Daily Wire folks, I'm gonna just smash their heads in there and be like, "You've not been baptized. You obviously do not know the Lord." So anyway, keep going.
And they really believe that this is going to make them happy.
That's a good mic, by the way. You hear how bassy his voice sounds in that? That's why we got to get these good microphones up here so people can hear our voice. Hear that bass, that very white up in this thing.
Happy, and that if you were to oppose them in this or say that's not true, that you are the cause of violence against them, even in many cases. So it's really hard. But love them, be merciful to them, care about them. But of course, we need to let God define what love is.
Right.
So you mean God gets to say something about what happens in this conversation? No. It's 2023. God cannot have any words in the conversation. We do not let God come in and say anything about anything because it might hurt somebody's feelings. So you mean we should actually let God be part of the conversation? And now, here's who I'm talking to. I'm talking to Christians who are bending over backwards and trying to contort themselves in such a way that the world is comfortable with what it is you're saying. Oh, well, as a Christian, I'm going to agree with everything that you agree with, to the point where, you're not causing me to deny Christ. And so I guess I'm going to agree with everything that you're saying, because as a Christian, I need to conform to what you're saying, and I need to be nice like you want me to be nice. And so then you never, ever get a chance to share what God actually says if you do that.
So Leviticus 19:17 is really the kind of the seminal verse on love in terms of the commands in the scripture, right? It's where we hear love your neighbor as yourself. But we often don't read is what comes before. Leviticus 19:17 says, you shall not hate your brother in your heart, but you shall reason frankly with your neighbor, lest you incur sin because of him. You shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge against the sons of your own people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord.
Yeah.
So he says at the beginning, don't hate, and at the end, love your neighbor. But he defines what love or what the opposite of hate would be. He says, you shall reason frankly with your neighbor. So be honest with them. In the New American Standard, they translate that, rebuke your neighbor. Rebuke your neighbor. So when your neighbor's in sin, rebuke them. So speak truthfully to them in a way that is going to be tough for them to hear, right? Being frank and open and honest is very difficult.
Yeah.
But it's love means you will be truthful to that person. So the first principle is to love your neighbor. The second principle, which stems out of it, is don't lie.
Yeah.
Don't lie. And again, love is defined, at least in part, by being truthful. These are not opposite virtues. It's not like you got to choose whether you're going to be truthful or be loving.
Give me more.
It's that you cannot be loving without giving truth to people, without speaking the truth. So if you're lying to somebody, you are encouraging them on a path to destruction. Isaiah 5:20 says, woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. In other words, he's saying, woe to those who invert obvious truths.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
It's a very
Christian actually use the Old Testament?
And it is
I thought Christian
lying.
only used the New
and it's
Testament.
not good.
What just
So
happened?
if you are participating in that and
So confused.
telling someone something that is
He's using the
untrue
whole
is
Bible?
true, then you are one of these kinds of people.
Right.
And that's very serious.
And you're affirming their sin pretty much, right?
Yeah, you're not affirming them, you're affirming their sin, right? Because that's not who they are.
Right.
1 Corinthians 13:6 is very helpful. It says, love does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. So love rejoices in what is true. So if somebody wants you to lie to them, that's not an option if you love them. You can't participate in lies because
why is he making so much sense here?
Of love.
Yeah.
So these are some super important verses. And then we can also go to Romans 1:32. Romans 1:32, where Paul says, though they know God's righteous decree that those who practice such things deserve to die, they not only do them, but give approval to those who practice them.
Man, that Romans 1.
So it's a tragic thing to engage in sin yourself, but in a sense, it's even more tragic to encourage or condone sin in other people.
I'm gonna put a
We have
link.
to be so careful
put a link
to
in the
live
show to this
in the
video.
truth
Y'all need to
and
watch this
only
whole
speak
video. We
what
don't have
is
time to watch
true.
this whole video. but
And
these
I would
make
say
too
that
much sense.
absolutely includes how we use pronouns and whether we're saying to someone, oh, you're actually the opposite gender of what you are.
Right.
That's not a loving or helpful action because it's not true.
We have come to the end of this episode. Don't miss a final word from Erskine.
Hey guys, tell your friends about this show, and as always, I look forward to your interactions. Please contact us as you are able. We love to hear from you. Okay, friends, let's go and make a difference.